Hi grade 9s. Alright, let's keep going with our unit. We are on the Slope-Intercept Form page of our notes, and that's page 13 if you want to join me there. Okay, so we are going to figure out the rest of what the equations mean, the ones that we've been creating in the patterns portion of our lessons. Okay, so we actually already did part of this last lesson, like last video that I recorded for you. We looked at what M means, right? So we talked about how that is the slope. Okay, so you can just draw an arrow to M. And then we're also going to learn about B. Okay, so that's the other part of the line equation. And it stands for the y-intercept. Okay, and so that is the zero number that we found when we did this before, right? So the slope was the pattern, and then the y-intercept was the zero number. And so now we're just going to transition into using some more mathematically accurate terms about these two things. Okay, so now you're probably thinking, all right, but what's a y-intercept? That's a good question. So, very simply, the y-intercept, sorry, my stylus is just glitching out here a little bit. Okay, here we go. The y-intercept is just very simply the y value where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay. There we go. And we, again, previously knew this value as the zero number. Okay. And we will only have to look at the y value for the same reason that we called this the zero number in the patterns portion of our unit, and that's because we're always looking for when x is equal to 0 for the zero number, and the same thing happens on a graph actually. So if you take a look here and you think about the y-axis, here I'm just looking at the first graph, right? In all of those locations, the x-coordinate is 0. And so since we looked for the zero number when x is 0, what is y? Then that's exactly what we're doing here, right? So we can see at this spot here on the graph, that's where x is equal to 0, that point, and we're asking ourselves what is y. Okay, so it's the same question that we're asking ourselves, just now we have a better term for it mathematically. Okay, so let's do these questions, which asks us to identify the y-intercept on each of the following graphs. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at that spot, and that spot. Now, you might be wondering why specifically those spots. That is because that is where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, and so we looked up here in our definition here, that is exactly what we're looking for, right? When the line crosses the y-axis, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so let's just take a look here. I'm going to just change colors like I always do. Okay, I like that one. Okay, so at this point, we can see that this point is 0, -2, right? And so because of that, then the y-intercept we can say is y equal to -2, or you can say the coordinate point, okay? And I would recommend that you use the coordinate point. It's a little bit more accurate, okay? It doesn't leave as many questions in people's minds, so that would be the best answer, okay? The coordinate point. And so same thing here in the second graph. We're going to look at where does the the graph cross the y-axis. And so here we're going to just count up. We're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we know then that this would be y equals 4, or again, more accurately, the coordinate point 0, 4. Okay. Last but not least, the last graph here, the third one, we can see that that is actually the origin, right, where the graph crosses the y-axis, and so we know that y is equal to 0 at that spot, and so the point would be 0, 0. So again, just to recap, we're always seeing that the y value is changing, right, while the x value remains 0. Okay, and so that's the definition of the y-intercept. Where does the graph intercept or cross the y-axis, and what is that y value? Okay, so now we can combine our skills together, and we can actually determine the equation of a line from the photo or from the image of it, like I've given you here, and then we can put it into slope-intercept form because now we know what the two values in the equation are, right? So we've looked at y equals mx plus b. Okay, so again, just to remind you, we looked at that right here. Okay, and that's the same thing as saying y is equal to pattern whoops, there we go, pattern times x plus 0 number. Okay, and so we are just putting this in more mathematical terms, but doing the exact same thing. Okay, so first thing we know is m is the pattern, right? And that is also equal to the slope. Okay, so you're going to remember that we did a bunch of calculating of slopes and talking about slope back here, right? Here we calculated the slope, here we talked about what it meant, and we are going to do the same thing. Whoops, went too far. There we go. We're going to do the same thing here. Okay, so again, I just want you to pick 2 points and then calculate the slope between them. So I'm going to pick this point here and this point here. Oh boy, that's just at the very bottom of the graph. They're kind of on that arrowhead, okay? So that spot. All right, so we're going to count our rise. Remember that we're always calculating slope as rise over run. Okay, rise over run. And in this case, our rise is -2 and our run is 5. Okay, and so it's totally fine for our slope to be a fraction. It's totally fine for it to be negative, all those things like we talked about. And there we go, that's a slope. And then because -2/5 is in lowest terms, we're good to go. Okay, and then the other thing we need to figure out is the y-intercept, or the 0 number, right? That spot where the graph crosses the y-axis. And I'm going to just highlight it here so you can see it. Okay, we can see that it's right, there we go, right there. And that spot is 0, -1. And so again, we're just going to take the y value of that coordinate point, okay? So we're seeing that the y-intercept is 0, -1, and we want to specifically use that -1, okay? So let's write this out. So we have y is equal to mx plus b. So y is equal to m, which is -2/5, times x plus b, right? So that's that -1, that y-intercept value. And then, of course, we need to simplify that because adding a negative is just subtracting. So that gives us y is equal to -2/5x minus 1. Okay, I'm just going to write that a little bit more neatly. There we go. Okay, so that is our final answer. Okay, y is equal to -2/5x minus 1. All right, let's keep going to the next example. We're going to do the same thing 3 more times on this, and then I'm going to make a new video for the remainder of the lesson, okay? So this video will end at the bottom of page 14. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so let's start again with y is equal to mx plus b, okay? So we know that we're looking for y equals mx plus b, so we need to find m and we need to find b. So m, rise over run like always, okay? So you're just going to pick 2 points and find the rise and the run between them. In this case, the points, they actually are only 2 points that I would recommend picking, which are those 2. And that's because they're the only 2 that cross at like a point spot, right? Like here it's just kind of in the middle of the graph, or here is again kind of in the middle of the graph, and I always recommend you pick whole points, okay? So moving from the left point to the right point, we're going to calculate our rise. Okay, that's just up here, and we can see that that is 6. We went 6 up, okay, and then run is there, and I can see I went 5 to the right, so that gives me 6/5. And again, because this is already in lowest terms, we're good to go, okay? And then the y-intercept is the point that's just right here, okay? That's the spot where the graph is crossing the y-axis, and we can see that that point is, 0, 5, okay? And so then that means, again, we're going to take that b value from here, okay? To give us our final answer of y is equal to m, which is the slope, times x plus that y-intercept value. Okay. There we go. That's our slope and y-intercept to create our line equation. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay. This is nice. Let's do the orange, actually. Okay, so again, y equals mx plus b. That's what we're looking for. That's the form of our line, so we need to find m and b. So m. All right, which 2 points am I going to pick? I'm going to pick this point. Hold on, sorry, ladies. Just getting this stylus to work again. It's a good time. It's a really good time. It's not a good time. Okay. Something has printed a little bit weird on this graph. Oh, no, there we go. Sorry, my bad. Okay, I'm going to pick this point and this point. There we go. Just getting myself oriented here. Okay, so rise over run, right? So we're going to rise, meaning counting our vertical distance from the left point to the right point. So I can see here that I actually have to go down in this case. So we already know that's going to be a negative number, right? Because we know that when we go down, it's always a negative rise. And in this case, I went down 6. Okay, and then I'm going to go across my run here to the rightmost point, and that is going to be 2 across. And of course, like I was saying, you always need to reduce. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Okay, and then the y-intercept. Okay, I'm just gonna highlight it again if that's helpful for you. Okay, it's right there, and that's the point 0, 0. And again, we just want that y value from that point. Okay, so we can get our final answer. That's y is equal to m, which is negative 3, times x plus 0, which is the b value or the y-intercept. Now again, this doesn't actually add anything to our equation, right? So negative 3x plus 0 is the same thing as negative 3x. And so then we're going to simplify to our best and most simplified answer, which is y is equal to negative 3x. Okay, so that is totally fine for the y-intercept to be 0. So then in that case, we would just simplify like we did. Okay, last example for this video, and then I will make a new video for the remaining pages of this lesson. Okay, so let's do this one, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. This is probably seeming like pretty normal by now to you, which is great. Okay, we can pick points here, okay, and I'm going to pick these 2 points, okay? Again, you can pick any 2 points. I'm just picking those because I like them, but there's no reason you couldn't have picked this point and this point or whatever, okay? Not a big deal. So, slope. All right, let's count our rise here. Okay, so we went up 3. And then we ran also 3. So when I reduce that, that gives me 1, right? 3 divided by 3 is just 1. Okay, then we have a y-intercept here. I'll highlight it again right there of 0, negative 3. And again, just going to take that y value. That's all I want out of there to plug it into my formula. So I'm going to get y is equal to 1x plus 3, right? So there's our m and there's our b that we just found. And again, I want to simplify as far as possible so we know that 1x is the same thing as just x. And we're going to put that in. But before I do that, I'm just realizing, sorry ladies, I put a plus and I meant minus, right? So just to clarify, that's minus 3 because this y value is a negative. Okay, so I should have written negative 3 there, not positive 3. My bad. Okay, so yes, like I was saying, this can be simplified. So we're going to do that. So we're just going to get y is equal to x, right? 1x and x mean the same thing. And then minus 3 because it has nothing to be simplified. So we are good to go. Okay, there's our final answer. Awesome. Okay, I will make another video for the rest of the lesson. Message me if you have any questions as usual. Okay, bye-bye.